This is an episode that, ironically, I forgot all about. We're in Season 3, and it's a Torres episode, which means that it must either be fixed something, pissed off, or having sex with somebody. It's the rule of tool if you're never sure. Either using a tool, acting like a tool, or polishing some guy's tool. The episode starts with the captain's log telling us about the Anarens. Turns out that they're hitching a lift on Voyager from one of their colonies back to their homeworld. In return, they'll get energy conservation technology. Maybe it's an off switch for the holodeck. We meet a couple of them down in engineering, an older woman named Morel and a younger one named Jessen. Harry is also down there since they can't afford Lieutenant Carey to guest star. It's implied that Harry might have a thing for Jessen, but I think we all know it's just because he knows that they can have no possible future together. There's homosexual, heterosexual, asexual, pansexual, lots of sexuals, but only Harry Kim is desperado sexual, only attracted to people he cannot possibly have. Well, it's getting late, so Harry and Jessen head off for dinner while Torres heads straight to bed to get on with the theme of this episode. In her dreams, she's named Corinna and a guy named Dathan slips in through the window to rock her world. It's very erotic for her. In fact, her little romp ran so long she wound up sleeping through her alarm and was late for her shift, a fact Chakotay brings up when he has to wake her up. She happily confides in him about her dream, as if that were the most obvious thing to share among friends. Want to hear about my wet dream last night? You'll love it, especially the part with the ice cubes. Telling Chakotay, though, that seems odd. He probably replied with a legend about how the Grand Canyon was created by two badgers doing it. Now, then again, I suppose she doesn't have a whole lot of options. Seska is gone now. The rest of the Maquis are just dubious. Janeway would laugh at her. And Seven hasn't shown up yet. And even if she had, she'd be confused. I have never experienced any dream containing sexuality, just normal dreams. Like me eating a popsicle while sitting on top of an enormous cigar. Well, there's a shindig for the Anarens, and Neelix has decorated the mess hall for it in their traditional style.
What happened to the tables and chairs?
Anarens don't use them. After a big meal, you can just lie back and take a nap. It's very practical.
Sure, assuming you don't need 2 pieces of cutlery, a drink, or the need to wipe your mouth during a meal. The only thing I think of with you and practical Neelix is practically useless. I know it seems petty to harp on this, but it's just one of those things that rubs me the wrong way, to praise something that's foolhardy, especially as we see that they have, in fact, used tables here. They're just not what you're used to calling a table, because you do need to put your stuff on things when you're trying to enjoy dinner, as anyone who has ever sat in a beanbag chair will tell you. It's like, someone standing there looking so superior because they got rid of that filthy, polluting car and replaced it with a bicycle. A bicycle which emits carbon monoxide and sulfuric acid with a fine mist. And to top it off, the car was electric in the first place. Anyway, Janeway is enraptured by the music.
I love music. I've always regretted that I never learned to play an instrument.
Especially one that's also a bong. Well, in response, Jor-Brel here dumps his knowledge of how to play into her brain. The Anarens are telepaths, so now she can play with all his years of lessons in her head. They can transfer experiences from person to person, which really should make cramming her final exams a lot easier on their planet. While this is all going on, Torres is turned in early, and she's dreaming that she's being lectured by her father, Senator Kelly. Kinda says a lot about Torres' sexual thoughts, huh? Let's get in the mood. Put on my dad's sweater there and tell me I need to go out and find a real job. But what should be clear is that despite the fact that she is experiencing all of this, this is not Torres. Because aside of appearance, she is nothing like Torres. Not her tone, not her mannerisms, not her attitude. Okay, that would probably be the same, I'll grant you that. Well, let's try to get back to work.
I have a crew starting on the backup systems.
Can you get it done before we drop off the Anarens?
Because if I wanted to guess, I'd just use my giant sacred dartboard back there to give me the answer. Well, while discussing the upgrades with Chakotay, she finally confesses that even though she's been having fun, things are getting out of hand.
It's like each new dream advances the story.
It sounds like a holonovel.
Or a book, right? I think that someone with a medicine wheel probably has run across one of those at some point. Or did you pass your time in the Maquis underground with full-service holosuites to while away your boredom? She and Chakotay decide they're going to have to do something about this. She'll talk to the Anarens in engineering, while Chakotay discusses the matter with the captain. However, before she can even get there, she starts dreaming in the middle of the hallway. Lucky this isn't one of those other kind of dreams, or else she'd be making quite a scene there, huh? Lying passed out in the hallway, moaning to herself. Someone would probably think she got into the tequila again. No, her father is giving a speech this time.
There are some who resist progress. Do not let the voices of fear and ignorance discourage you.
Now, here's my plan for dealing with the mutant threat. They're talking about expansion and terraforming, and Torres gets an award for her role in all this. Her boyfriend is hiding in the shadows, and things are complicated because he's a regressive. That means that they're on different paths, partly cultural and partly official. We see him and the others have something scanned by officials before being allowed on their way, and I'm betting it's not to see if they got their second free day at Six Flags. Torres comes around in sickbay with signs that memories were being implanted, not that she had been dreaming this. So to protect her, the doctor's got, you guessed it, a neck thingy. It's important because this whole process has caused her brain damage. But not to worry, the doctor has fixed that. Yeah, brain damage? Show me something really hard, like baldness. Well, I admit, I do find this whole brain damage thing a bit dubious. The only member of the crew that could possibly suffer brain trauma from experiencing memories of hot, steamy sex is Harry. Torres isn't happy about losing the chance to continue the dreams, but the doctor points out that curiosity versus brain damage should be an obvious choice, even for her. They try getting some answers out of Jor-Brel, but he says that if she picks up memories, it's probably unintended. She's just piecing all these disparate pieces together to try to make sense of them. It's a logical explanation, but Janeway plans to keep digging, just in case, and she tells Torres to just take it easy for a couple of days. So, of course, the neck thingy comes off and it's right back to the dreams again. And quickly, she's with her father talking about the resettlement for the regressives. I think the wet dream stuff is out of the picture at this point. Very few sexual fantasies involve forced relocation. I probably shouldn't have said that. Now someone's going to link me an entire series of erotic books set around the Trail of Tears. Her father talks about how this was inevitable. The regressives just don't fit in with their society. And after listing all the things that they refuse to use, stuff along the lines of, what kind of weirdos would want to live their life like that? He then gets around to the fact that this includes things that sterilize your hands in your homes, of germs. And thus, they would present a threat of starting a plague, even though there has not been a problem like that. But it does allow the escalation from different to dangerous, the justification for this. This seems to be backed up when one of the regressives resists being boarded and Torres gets whacked in the face. Though it's amusing that someone who's lashed out so many times is suddenly on the receiving end and takes it so personally. Well, Torres discovers that indeed, she has been living someone else's life in there. Which again makes sense because in the dreams, her behavior is absolutely nothing like Torres normally is. Dawson's acting in this gets a lot of praise, and I'm not saying that she didn't do a fine job, but what amuses me is that a lot of this has been directed about how the character of Torres and the character that she is playing in the dream are so different. As if they're suddenly surprised that an actor can play two different people. Yeah, you'd almost think she was a professional, huh? Well, these memories belong to Morel, and she's been implanting them deliberately in Torres. And also now, she's dying. She insists on sharing the rest of the memories with Torres, and so we're back in that neighborhood of make-believe. Dathan stops by. He's dodged his scheduled roundup and transport today, and is joining a group that are avoiding this resettlement by running away. That sounds contradictory, but it's actually because he and the others believe that there is no resettlement. It's a systematic extermination. The regressives are being vaporized on the transports with no warning and no bodies left behind.
I can show you how we're rounded up for these voluntary resettlements, how the soldiers treat regressives who won't go quietly. I know it is hard to face, but you have to. It is too important. Now let me show you.
No,
The question is, did she say no because she doesn't believe him? or she does and doesn't want to accept it. Her father swings by to say that the regressives are insidious, pretending to be passive victims when they are really trying to just manipulate people.
Corinna, think. A secret conspiracy against their people? Organized murder on such an enormous scale? Do you really believe that your family and friends are capable of that?
Well, Aunt Ethel is pretty mean. Yes, all right, Aunt Ethel would commit genocide, but the rest of us would never rise above institutionalized eugenics, young lady. She buys into it and gives up Dathan, and he's executed before a chanting crowd, though who admittedly has not had an ex that they wish would be burned alive in the public square. Then she later tells the story of the regressives to some children, that they all moved away and then died because of disease caused by being stupid. That's the exact same thing I told my kids when their goldfish died. Well, trying not to be surprised, Torres is incensed and interrupts the celebratory toast to call them out for being revisionist history monsters. The problem is, there's no evidence to back up anything she says. Morell denied everything in the investigation. There's no evidence that she was murdered to be hushed up, and there is nothing to corroborate the story.
I know that it's easier for you to believe that I'm crazy.
Well, you do tend to make that the path of least resistance, Torres. Janeway takes her into her ready room to deal with the fallout, and she says that she understands what Torres did and why, but she can't support staying around and digging through history looking for proof of it. It is, after all, against the Prime Directive to become involved in these internal matters, and trying to force their society to acknowledge a truth that has been hidden from their descendants would definitely qualify for that. Janeway does, however, point out that Torres is free to talk to the Anarans before they depart, implying that she is free to try one last time to persuade them. Once again, the Prime Directive can be bent if she likes it. Prevent genocide? No. Tell people that there was a genocide? That's different. I'm not against genocide. I just believe in credit where it's due. Torres explains it to Jesson, who doesn't want to believe such a horrible thing, but finally agrees to take the memories from Torres and see for herself. Which means the episode starts over, which means we should probably bug out. Once is enough, thank you very much. Post-episode follow-up? Stupid Neelix's moment is his misunderstanding of how furniture works, though I wouldn't be surprised if that extends to showers and toilets too. Final score for Remember is 7 out of 10. It's one of the more effective allegories in the show because it doesn't try to force the issue. The main problem that I personally had with it was I couldn't connect very well with Dream Torres and Dathan, and so I wasn't really invested in their rocky journey together. From an intellectual standpoint, I can at least appreciate what they were doing. I just didn't feel as pulled in as, say, Picard in Inner Light. I know some people will find that shocking, but sorry, Dathan especially was just generic dude to me. I think they needed somebody to breathe more life into that character. I think that might have helped. Dawson did just fine, don't get me wrong. I think she handled the material just so. I think that in the end, there's more right than wrong here, so I'll just leave it at that.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
I'm afraid.